Before I write anything, I think about the game's ending and the beginning first. That's the most important thing when writing a story, because when you write the beginning, that's the hook. You're trying to capture your audience into a world that you built. When you're writing the ending, it feels like a conclusion, bad or good, and the character achieved its goal or failed at its goal. The middle part of the story is the journey, and it should have a lot of ups and downs, but rising steadily towards its conclusion. Those ups and downs that the characters undergo are challenges that they face, which is also important in good writing. There's a saying that the journey is more important than the destination. So why is the beginning and the ending more important than the journey? It's because as a gamer, when you're playing the game, you follow along the story and see the characters overcoming those challenges. And those challenges are unlocking new abilities or learning a new mechanic. That's the fun part as a gamer. The journey takes up the majority of the gameplay, while the beginning and the ending takes up so little. That's why the journey is more important than the destination to a gamer, because you're playing a video game. But as a writer, and to make a good story, the beginning and ending is more important than the journey. The beginning is the hook. Without the hook, the story wouldn't begin. The ending is answering the question, why do I care? Why is this story so important? And as a writer, you're the one answering that question and using the characters that you created to answer that question. And it could be something like, I escaped North Korea and I wanted the world to know how inhumane North Korea is. In just one sentence, we have the hook, which is the setting, North Korea, and we have the reason for writing this story to express how inhumane North Korea is. Because we have the hook and the reason for writing the story, creating that journey is much easier. And we have a perfect example of this in real life. Yeonmi Park, a North Korean girl that escaped from North Korea, tells her story of what it's like in North Korea and her hardships in escaping from that place. That whole story is the journey. Knowing how to write a purposeful story is one of the key steps in writing a good story. And also, a good story takes time, because it takes time writing the character's growth. When I wrote Harvest Island, I thought about the game's ending and the beginning first. That's the most important thing in writing a story. I knew how the game was going to end, and I wanted to show the love between the siblings and that their tragedy brought them closer together. And this relates to the people who have siblings of their own. They fight a lot, say a lot of mean stuff, or never talk to each other, but they're still your siblings. And I wanted to show that no matter the differences, you can still love each other. That would be the reason for writing this story. And in order to tell this story, I needed a hook, the beginning. Most farming games are cozy, tranquil, and relaxing, so I decided to go for a unique setting, a farming game with lots of horror elements to it. I wanted to create a genre that would be interesting to play because there aren't that many horror farming games out there. After knowing my beginning and ending, I started writing the journey because it's so much easier to write when I have the reason and the hook. I created Samantha and Will and established the relationship between them in the beginning of the game. That meant they had to fight a lot, lots of bickering and lots of kid logic. I did this because it sets up a strong bond between them. Even though they're fighting, this is what siblings do when they're young. And this is where the journey begins. This is where a good story takes time, because you have to build the growth of the character. In my case, I wanted to show the dynamic between Will and Samantha, and after accomplishing that, I slowly introduced those ups and downs, which are challenges that the kids needed to face, and overcoming those challenges, fighting little odd things like a pool of blood in the middle of the forest, finding a human skull on the beach. These minor challenges are important to the journey as they create suspense, which is needed to keep your audience attention. And then you add more changes to their lives, like a severed moose's head, and seeing how Will and Samantha react to it, and then adding more severe changes to their lives, where they already suspect their dad of murdering them. This journey part where I'm writing is where the gamers care about, because it's an experience that they are going through together with the characters. This is where the journey is more important than the destination. But as a writer, the ending and beginning are important. It gives you a structure on what to write. So when I wrote the end of Harvest Island, I made sure that Will and Samantha loved each other, and that the scene was very heartfelt, that no matter what their differences are and how much they argued, they faced it together which is the sole reason why I wanted to write this story. This is the reason why the story for my game is so good and compelling, and that you'll be very attached to the characters after finishing the game. It's because I had a hook and I had a reason for writing the story, and then I took my time in writing the characters' growth and having them overcome the challenges they had to face. This is what makes a good story and why it takes time to make a good story. I'm the developer of Harvest Island, and if you want to experience the story, you should buy the game on Steam. I'm also currently working on a new game called A Journey's End, which is very much inspired by Spirited Away, so wishlist that on Steam and follow the Kickstarter.